Welcome back everybody, I'm Follygon and this is part 24 of Sculpting D.Va from Overwatch. As promised, we're going to do some hard surface stuff in this episode, focusing on D.Va's headphones, or earphones, whatever you want to call them. Starting with a cube, I showed you how to initialize that in the last video, but if you didn't see that one, down in the bottom right hand corner of that tool palette over there on the right side, you can see that initialize palette that I have open there. From there you can create a cube primitive, and that's what I did to create what we have here. I used a mask tool to just kind of pull out that corner, and now I'm just using my Transpose tool to adjust the cube and put it into shape. From there, go ahead and grab your Z modeler brush if you want to follow along, and the default face function, if you hover over a face and click, you should get something similar to what just happened with my cube here. Now I obviously have symmetry on, so it's of course mirrored across that axis there. Real quick here, if you don't know how to do this, I have a great tutorial that I'll put in the description or in the top right hand corner of the screen for how you can use this image placement tool. It's called Spotlight. Pretty easy to use, a lot of functionality that you can do with it. You can use it for actually painting textures as well, but I won't go into that in this video. We'll focus more on the hard surface stuff. So link up in the top right hand corner of the screen if you want to go check out how to use this tool. So now that I have my image placed, I start by adding an edge loop down the center part of this, what is going to become the headphone. And when you start adding edge loops with your tool here, you're going to start realizing that it's going to uncrease a lot of the stuff that you're working on. So my focus here, typically when I'm using this tool, there's really only a few things that I use. And if you have the Z modeler brush selected right now, as you hover over a face, an edge, and a point, different options are going to be available to you if you hold the spacebar. So hovering over a face, I like to put that on extract or Q mesh. They're pretty much exactly the same thing. Sub a few little details. Q mesh is a little bit smarter with some stuff, but extract will keep creased edges for you, which is very nice. Over on edge, I like to use the crease function and then crease edges as I go along. I'll also switch that to bevel, which is how I got that top edge there. And for face, occasionally I'll switch that to add an edge loop, or what is called a poly loop in ZBrush. After I have all that in place, you're going to see me crash ZBrush here. And this is just a fair warning to everyone using Z modeler or trying to box model in ZBrush. If you're trying to use the Z modeler tool, and if you're working with edges or poly loops, as we just mentioned, be very careful when you mirror stuff across a particular axis with poly loops. ZBrush can be really finicky with this. I'm not entirely sure what causes it. I've never been able to consistently recreate it. Sometimes poly looping does work just perfectly fine with symmetry. Sometimes it doesn't. So unfortunately for us, that means just save a lot. Up in the top right hand corner of the screen, you got that quick save button. There's another cool tutorial that you can check out on how to set that up really nice and easy for you in your preferences, so that you don't lose too much information if you do crash. And also quick save, because it happens automatically, I'll set it up for you so you don't get bothered and interrupted too often. So go check that out if you haven't personalized your quick save settings in the past. And we can go ahead and continue to extract some geometry here, add some edge loops, some bevels, and pull out some cool shapes. What's awesome about box modeling in ZBrush that I love so much, and why I don't like kick over to Maya or Max or any other box modeling tool, is that when I'm box modeling in ZBrush, I also have all of my standard just run-of-the-mill ZBrush tools right there, ready to use. So I can use, my favorite mask lasso. I can use my Transpose tool. And you might be thinking like, oh, the Transpose tool, that thing's a piece of garbage. But, as I've said, I've used it for such a long time that it's really powerful, and it has a lot of cool hidden functionality that a lot of people don't realize that it has. So I just love having these tools available to me right here inside of ZBrush. It makes it all really easy for me to kind of do stuff quick and still feel natural in my own kind of workflow and workspace that kind of transfers from organic modeling over here to hard surface as well. Here you can see that I'm going to duplicate this mesh and go back down to that initialize palette to get another cube. It's a really nice and easy, fast way to get just a cube or a cylinder with the exact amount of polygons that you desire. So I just created a cube, just 6 polygons, nice and easy. While I'm working on this, this is what is going to be, or this part and the next part are going to make up the antenna of this headphone. And unfortunately, the ZBrush is going to crash again. This time on a feature that's new to ZBrush 4R8. I use the Gizmo tool for a little cool thing to move multiple subtools at once. So if you're familiar with Transpose Master, that lets you kind of combine all your subtools temporarily and make some adjustments, move some stuff, maybe pose a character, pose a headphone, which is what I would like to do. And then click another button and it applies those changes back across your subtools, splitting it all back up for you. But in ZBrush 4R8, we have a new feature with the Gizmo tool, and it's this little list button on the top right that lets you move multiple things at once. And as you can see, I'm having a bit of trouble with it. And that's because maybe not all the bugs are worked out quite yet, or because it's just maybe a problem with using some low poly Z-modeler tools and then trying to combine it and use it with Transpose tool. And I did more than a few things there that probably could have caused it to freak out, but no worries. Like I said, the quick save is set up for us so that the most we ever lose is maybe like 10 or 15 minutes of work. And in this case, it wasn't very much at all. And luckily for us, we can just fast forward here so we don't have to watch it again. And I really quickly put all that back into place. Moving on here, I'm just using my masking tools to kind of create a little bit of some variation in the shapes, trying to kind of move that part down, as you can see, to just layer it a little bit differently, as well as fix some of our intersecting geometry. If you look at this, it's not exactly like D.Va's headphone. I'm not trying to go for perfect accuracy here. If I was, we would be here for quite a bit longer. And I'd be talking a lot more in detail about how you can use reference images to kind of line stuff up and go about getting a lot closer proportions as well as more exact shapes. But again, that's not our purposes here. We just want it to have the feeling and aesthetic of looking like D.Va's headphone, as well as not being immediately recognizable as something completely alien to the character. So the last part of these headphones is creating the band that keeps them on your head, and I'll adjust it later to fit more with her hair. I'm just using a combination of the extract or Q mesh tool here within the Z-modeler brush. From there, I just mask off part of it, use my transpose tool, and just use the rotate and curve it down. What's great about the transpose tool is it also snaps to points. So if I want to rotate from a specific point, like I just did there, it's great for doing stuff like that. What I'm doing here is trying to mirror my headphones across the X and Y, or I'm sorry, just across the X axis, and then mirror and weld them together. When you do that though, you might get a little excess geometry in between there. No worries, you can just delete that. Shouldn't be too big of a problem. The last few things that I'm going to be doing here that you can watch, it's a little sped up, but you should be able to follow along if you are. And if not, you can yell at me down in the comments below that it's going too fast. But I'm trying to get through all this quickly because it is taking a while. I did want to show you guys every step of the process, like I've said in the past. But at the same time, I can't really go through every single step, like step 1, 2, 3, click here, make this edge loop, click here, make this extraction. If I were to do that, I mean, this series would go on for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of content. And that's just not our intention here. I do want to create a little bit of a base of information, though, that you can follow along with, maybe get some ideas, maybe delve deeper into some of the content. If you see the hard surface tools here in ZBrush and they do interest you, maybe I can make a new tutorial with some more info on that, if that's something that interests you guys. And the way you can tell me that that interests you is, again, just posting down in the comments and saying, yeah, hard surface tutorial would be pretty cool. I have done some stuff in the past on live streams, and those should be under my live stream playlist if you're interested in seeing some of that. Go ahead and check all that out. If there's some really specific tutorial that you want, don't be afraid to ask for it. You'd be surprised how many questions I get about very specific things, like would you make a tutorial for making fingernails or toenails or something like that. So don't be afraid to ask if it's something that seems really stupid or small. I would be happy to answer your questions or anything like that. Just go ahead and throw them again down in the comments below. And with that, we'll move on to more painting and materials in the next episode, as well as a few other things. So I will see you guys over there. And with that, thank you for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.